This is how I beat my friendly neighborhood with just the Rolodexer.
That's the pistol you get at the start, just in case you didn't know.
Now trust me, this video gets pretty insane for more than one reason, but the main reason being if you'd like to see how I beat my friendly neighborhood's final boss with just the beginning gun, I'd recommend you stay tuned.
How do I avoid you?
Now, as with all challenge videos, we're gonna need to set some rules moving forward to make sure this challenge is actually doable. The first being the most obvious, which is I can only use the Rolodexer throughout the entire game, with the only exception being the use of the wrench until we actually acquire the gun. Because there's, well, you know, a good 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay with just the wrench, and without it, it would be hell. The second being consumables. Things like chocolate bars and health pots are completely fine, and the same with tape. After all, this is a Rolodexer only challenge, not a no consumable challenge. Probably the easiest rule to point out is we aren't allowed any other guns. And, I mean, no shit, but it has to be said, right? No grenades either, or punctuation, whatever you want to call it. The reason for this is I basically decided that if an item can hurt an enemy, then it shouldn't be used, with the exception of the wrench at the very beginning of the game. Ammo consumption. If for any reason in the run where I was out of ammo completely, I am not allowed to restart to the closest save to regain ammo, as this is cheating. Now that we have our rules set out on the table, the journey can begin. Or at least I thought it could. Of course, I'd be stupid to not mention the frame errors I had throughout over half of my game. I realized when I did fix it that thank fuck my computer wasn't gonna blow up, and even more so, thank fuck that the game is properly optimized. I'm just a moron who had my encoder settings wrong, so yes, unfortunately a lot of the gameplay footage for about 65% of this challenge is like 30 to 45 frames per second max. It sucks, trust me, I know. But in editing, I am going to try and use mostly just scenes that are frame acceptable, and avoid ones that completely blind the enemy with pure Clorox in their fucking eyes. That's how bad it looks. And now we can start. Starting in the game, we make our way out of our truck, and my PC dies a little bit. It's okay, because it does get better. Then we enter the hotel and get to meet our beloved friend, Ricky the Sock. He's great, genuinely a funny character, and I was so heartbroken when he died at the end. Kidding! Don't fucking yell at me. Long story short, we tell Ricky why we are here. Ricky tells us no, we tell Ricky yes, he coughs up a card, and we go on our merry way! Yeah, I'm a little bitch and didn't want to bother him, so what? Anyway, let's skip along to the first interesting part. The wrench! Now that we have the wrench, we can go to our next task. Killing all the puppets!
I literally left-clicked, motherfucker.
And then, we met our beloved save room, which, in my opinion, is one of the coolest video game features I've ever seen. Paying to save or heal your game? You know, I personally don't know any other game that has done this as a main mechanic, so if you do, feel free to let me know down below, but to me, this was such a cool idea, and I'm so glad that they incorporated it. Oh, and that we got a map, which is heaven in this game. After we got our beloved map, we made our way out and continued killing the puppets! And then finally, our true adventure begins.
Oh shit.
After we slaughtered our enemies, we headed downstairs to find our beloved circle key. Hey, this is just a quick little side note because I forgot to mention it earlier in the script. This game has keys. Funny, I know. That are all shaped like certain shapes. God, my vocabulary is crazy today. The first you get is a blue circle key, the second is an orange square key, the third is a red diamond key, and the final key is a green triangle. Now that you know that, we can continue. Thanks, Scythe. And then we made our way back to the beginning area where the two circle double doors were, and headed inside. Unfortunately, a lot of the gameplay here is incredibly frame laggy and almost unwatchable. I'm gonna play the whole thing here in the background as I'm speaking about this level as a form of proof that I didn't use any of the illegal items, but trust me, this footage is just horrid. As I said earlier, I do fix it eventually, but it just took me a while to figure out what the problem even was, so I just went along with it. And at this point, I also started playing every Kevin MacLeod song I've ever heard. I didn't even know half of these were Kevin's songs. Regardless, we began our journey of stage 4 by looking for the neighborhood sign blocks, the main reason for this stage. I'm not gonna lie, I only ended up killing and taping maybe 2 puppets, which was really good for my ammo, and made this level even better for this run, and for my general experience as well. After we completed the puzzle, we got our little sticky note and we sent it to Pyrocynical, asking how much a month he spends on commissions for Fat Pyro TF2 Furry and Flesh. Is that really in the script? Oh my god, Pyro, I am so sorry. After kink-shaming my idol, we left stage 4 and traversed back to the main plaza. Here is where we got to see the beginning of our next level. The sewers. As we arrived in the lovely sewers, my frames seemed to kill themselves even more than in stage 4. This is really frustrating! But thankfully, this is a voiceover video primarily, and not exactly a gameplay video. Ironic, I know. Regardless, we made our way down the slide and into the sewers, whilst for some reason still listening to Kevin McLeod.
Captured a...
I think it was purely because I wanted to listen to royalty-free music so I don't get copy-striked, and monkey spinning monkeys is what first came to mind. Not sure what that says about me as a person, but oh well. Either way, the main objective of the sewers level is to find a set of keys and open up a bunch of locked wall-mounted boxes over the level. Inside each of these boxes is a fuse, which when placed in a certain order, activate a door and allow us to progress further. When the big iron lung doors open, we are presented with one of the strangest rooms in the game. And I don't really know why I didn't mention it in the gameplay footage, but there was just something incredibly unsettling about this area. Maybe it was the secludedness or just the statues. Whatever it was though, my brain no likey. So we got our bolt cutters and headed on out down to the west basement, where earlier in the level we found a door that has chains on it and need to be cut by the bolt cutters. Now yes, I know I skimmed over a lot in this level, and honestly that's just because there isn't a single place I recall returning to more in this game than the sewers, and you'll see why later. So, we cut through the chains, we went up the stairs, and we were faced with an elevator. And then we arrived at the office. I'm not gonna lie, I think the frames were a lot better in this area as opposed to the others, and I'm glad. The office is my second favorite location in the entire game, next to the cardboard land that Arnold made that we get to explore far later in the video. And then shortly after arriving into this new territory, we found the office map. And again, thank fuck! This game without a map is actual torture. I truly believe that. On top of that, for some reason, when we entered this room, all of the frames died? Like, I remember recording this and it being relatively fine, still a solid 45 frames per second on my end, but looking at the footage, it looks more like 15 frames per second. If that. Regardless, the next step was to go into the games room. Most of this was just back and forth, but the main objective here is the diamond key. To get the key, we have to play a really fun board game with Norman. Not gonna lie, this is once again a really cool example of how amazing this game is. But before we could play, we were missing a player piece. Thankfully, it doesn't take us too long to find it in the recording studio on a chessboard. Before leaving, I made sure to keep note of where these masks were throughout the building. That's because later on, the masks are pretty much the most important part of this stage, and they are how we beat the level. We then headed back to the game room to prepare for our hardest battle yet. My Friendly Neighborhood. Yeah, that's the board game name. I was thinking like Norman's Next Step or something, something catchy, but regardless, I didn't make the games, I can't say anything. We versed Norman a couple times.
Let's try our luck. If we're really lucky here.
This is a bunch of bullshit.
But eventually, we were the ones who came out on top.
I'm sorry, mate.
And now that we have the diamond key, a lot can be done. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we end up backtracking quite a lot in this game, more than I originally wanted to, seeing as I just wanted to progress as much as possible and not bother with most, if any, of the side quests. But first and foremost, to progress in the game like I wanted to, we needed to find the 4 masks. Good save. The first one we actually got ages ago, and it was the Happy Mask. I genuinely have no idea where and when we got this, so let's just go along with it. The next we actually got access to primarily because of the Diamond Key, and this was the Angry Mask. I then decided inventory-wise it was smart to place Happy and Angry on their respective statues, so that way I could pick up Fear and Sadness, so I did just that.
Fucking terrifying.
Fear was a field trip to get, and you can see why. After that confuckery, we made our way back to the mask statue room and placed good old Sadness and Fear on their respective statues. We then received 9 different dice, which all can be used for a safe puzzle back in the games room. I just wanted to say as well, at only once or twice during this whole playthrough did I have to consult a Steam forum, and one was just for an optional achievement I wanted. This puzzle, with the dice for example, I kinda just instinctively remembered how to beat it, which for someone with really bad memory, this was a feat I won't be forgetting. After achieving said feat, we received a gas canister, and this was to power an elevator room on floor 1 of the office. After the canister was in, the before-mentioned elevator was functional again, so we went straight on through. This is where we get to see the previous owner of My Friendly Neighborhood, and get the key to leave the office.
Not permanently. Remember, there is still a lot of backtracking.
But unfortunately for Gordon, as we left the elevator, a boss spawned.
Yup.
And I realized how hard this challenge would soon become. Now, in this boss battle, there are multiple things we needed to remember. This giant creature is usually killed with the shotguns and the grenades. I don't know of anyone so far who has tried to kill this thing with just the Rolodexer. The next thing is my ammo. I'm sure you've noticed quite a lot throughout the gameplay segments that I've had well over 99 bullets in my mag. The simple reason is that I was a very greedy gremlin with ammo consumption, and thankfully when you go over 99, you keep that ammo, but it just stays as a spare in your inventory. But despite that, to kill this boss with just the pistol took almost 70% of my total ammo, it was well over 200. And finally, this guy's eyes represent its HP. I'm not exactly sure how much health he has, seeing as damage is randomized in this game, but he has 10 eyes total, and each go shut when he's taken a certain amount of damage. With that all being said, this is the outcome.
Oh, one eye left. Look at it, there we go. Hell yes.
And finally, after defeating one of the most difficult enemies in the game thus far, we gained access to the plaza once again. Once we arrived back at the plaza, we were faced with a quick and easy puzzle to unlock the gates to what will soon be known as the Gardens. Inside, we go straight to the shack to our right, as inside resides a safe room and the map to the area. Pivotal stuff! And that officially ended day one's progress on the Rolodexer only challenge. Oh, and if you were wondering why I was so quiet throughout all the gameplay thus far, and why I stopped playing, it's because when I was recording that video, it was like 2 in the morning, so I couldn't be loud, and I was pretty eepy. So I got a good night's rest, and I woke up the next day determined as ever. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. Damn right! Except for some reason I'm still playing Kevin McLeod. By the way, when arriving in the Gardens area, we only have 2 main objectives. One is a side quest that was essentially a must-complete, seeing as how often the enemy spawns, and the other, an actual game-continuing objective. One of them is feeding the dogs. Hear me out, man! They need their food! They've been good doggos! And when you feed them, they stop coming after you. The second, which is game-continuing, is to find 3 ingredients that allow us to continue to the second last segment of the game. These ingredients consist of film fluid, trombone polish, and weed killer. What do we need these for, you ask? A chemical compound that destroys the sticky jam liquid thing on the elevator we found at the very start of the game. Yeah, this game loves backtracking. Oh, and did I forget to mention that the green triangle key is here at the mixing station? I did? Oh, well, it's here, and so is my overwhelming urge to make red rooms go green room. Curse this game. But seriously, with the triangle key in our possession, backtracking is basically inevitable. There are so many rooms, like even the very beginning in Stage 4, that have doors with the triangle key symbol on them. They are everywhere, and so our little rabbit hunt begins. The first item of these 3 we end up finding is the film fluid, back all the way down in the sewers. The next is the trombone polish, where for some reason, I'm actually getting like 4 FPS. My PC can play Dark Souls for 20 minutes better than it can this game. After receiving the first 2 items, it only took about 10 minutes or so, which is really good. The sad news is, finding the weed killer took well over half an hour. But having said that, we did end up getting the puppers some food, and now they don't harm us anymore. And now, we can continue this adventure. I didn't know this at the time, but finding this fucking key is what took me so long to figure out what I needed to do. The next, I kid you not, 40 minutes, we had figured out what to do. Oh, and by this time, the game is finally running smoothly. Like, really good. I do have the playground key, but I really don't think it gets me the weed killer. Oh boy, was I wrong. So basically, to get the weed killer, you need to complete this playground puzzle where you basically just learn where all the cardboard cutouts are of all the cast, which are placed around the playground. It's a pretty fun puzzle. I just wasn't personally a fan because of how bad my memory is, or my short term. But that's literally a skill issue and not a game issue. Regardless, we beat the puzzle, and lo and behold, after nearly an hour, we got the weed killer. But I think I already remember it as well, so it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, yes,
2,
I remember
3.
the code for this. Wanna know how? Because in my first playthrough, it took me an hour to not get the ingredients, but to learn how to use this fucking machine. I kept tapping the left click without knowing you had to hold it, and when I learned that I had to hold it, I lost my shit. But regardless, it allowed me to memorize the code for all my future runs, and with that, we had our chemical compound. Now, my first and honest thoughts for this next area. Once you apply the liquid compound to the jam thing in the hotel, you go up to this strange lair of sorts. The area seems to be completely designed by cardboard and crayon coloring, and I fucking love this area! It is easily my favorite zone in the entire game. Why? I don't know. The style, the design, the puzzles, the enemies, the items, it just felt so fun to play. It was amazing. I think myself and a lot of people will play games, and by the time the end comes around, it's just, it feels replicated. It feels like the same shit you've just played, but for even longer, and it's honestly so amazing to see this zone be such a breath of fresh air. I don't have any initial reaction to this place, unfortunately, because I didn't record it, but I can tell you now, it was amazing. Arnold's Home is a masterpiece. Say what you want about this game and the randomized damage systems or the Sesame Street-styled gameplay, but don't you dare, and I mean dare, ever talk shit about Arnold or his magnificent home. Now with that rant out of the way, there are a few puzzles we have to do here. The main puzzle is a literal puzzle, like puzzle pieces and all. Throughout Arnold's Lair, we have to find puzzle pieces. Eventually, this turns the lights on and lets us talk with Arnold. The other ones being related to finding a purple hexagon key. When we find this key in one of Arnold's 4 rooms, it's on a pedestal, and to get it, we need to find something of equal weight to replace it. So then comes in the kitchen room. When we're in here, we basically have one big board that tells us how to make what we need to create the replacement key, so that we can take the real one. It's pretty cool, a more basic puzzle, but I like it all the same. Once we do have the replacement key, we walk back to the pedestal room and go in here. Holy shit! I killed her. I was scared. I trigger fingered her and I never felt better. Regardless, in this room is the key to another puzzle later on. Well, it's more a book, but you know. This puzzle is relating to Arnold's drawings, and each of these 5 correspond to a picture code that we'll get to a little later on. In a bunch of the rooms reside a purple chest. When you get the key, you can open each of these chests. Most, however, have puzzle pieces. And then we get to move on to the puzzle with Arnold's drawings that I mentioned earlier. Basically, we have to click the drawing that corresponds with Arnold's drawing book earlier, in numerical order. This gives us the last puzzle piece and an extra mag for our beautiful Rolodexer gun. We then place our last puzzle piece in and say hi to Arnold, even teaching him a little song that we totally didn't steal from anyone else. And now, we finally arrived at the antenna. The whole reason we were even here in My Friendly Neighborhood in the first place. We climb the ladder presented before us and reluctantly make the decision to continue climbing higher, to inevitably disable the antenna. I actually won't be speaking over this part, as I think it should be left uncut and within the video, to serve as a form of message.
Gordon, you don't have to do this. You know why I think we got canceled? Why? Because people like darkness more than light. Why would they do that? Maybe it makes them uncomfy, because it shows how messed up they are.
That's kind of based. Gets struck by lightning. Yeah, just go away. That I will! I mean, I don't, but I really wish I did. This, as agreed by almost the entire MFN community, is the scariest segment of the entire fucking game. The freakiness of the puppets, the lack of their eyes, and even more of the growth in their teeth! It's horrifying! The fact as well that a lot of their color kind of just drains out of their clothing and general appearance, it's just very grey. And I really like this area, despite it being absolutely horrifying. Mainly because prior to this, the game has been more survival-based than horror, with only very small elements of surprise turning into small jump scares. But this area, the scene, the enemy, the ambience, the sound design, and most of all, the story, it's truly unsettling. And these are the moments just before the boss battle, the terrifying new look of our once relatively beloved neighbors. They've become rogue. And now, we meet the boss. I don't know if this thing has a name yet, but I like to call it Stitch, as it's simply a stitched together amalgamation of most of the puppets thus far. And as far as beating this thing goes, we didn't. That's the long and short of it, at least. There are 2 ways to beat this boss, or Stitch, evident by the 2 achievements you can get. One is when you do kill the boss, and the other is by showing it mercy? If you show the boss mercy and just wait for this little barred gate from earlier to reach the bottom, you can avoid fighting this thing entirely. And just avoid it, which, with the help of a candy bar, we were able to do almost flawlessly. And then finally, we leave the building through the motel we were arriving in just moments before. I'm gonna let this play over the last bit of dialogue I have, and that is my final thoughts on this game. Despite this being a challenge video, it kinda does get ruined by the ending, and you'll get to see that now. Give me the achievement for using the Rolodexer only. Hello? Wait, what the fuck? Where's the achievement? Huh? Are you serious? I'm not allowed to use the wrench. Yep, I didn't realize this until the very end of our playthrough, and when I had officially completed my challenge, I didn't realize, for the achievement at least, I wasn't allowed to use the wrench, which honestly, it just felt a little unfair. I get that it's my fault for not realizing it sooner, but now it just makes the entire video feel pointless. I will go back for this challenge one day in a stream or something, but it is a little heartbreaking to know that we didn't get the achievement I was aiming for all along. On a more positive note though, we did have the rules at the start say that I could use the wrench until we got the gun. So in a way, we did beat our own challenge, of Rolodexer only. But in Steam's eyes, I failed. And at the end of the day, that's okay. This game was so much fun for me to play. Twice! Yes, this is my second playthrough. The very first time was just me enjoying the game. And I believe every run after this will be just as fun. I truly do love My Friendly Neighborhood, and I hope it gets the love it most definitely deserves. The amount of replayability in this game and the large pile of achievements makes it almost impossible not to want to come back to it. And that's part of its charm. And with all that loom and gloom out of the way, we did it! Our way! We beat the Rolodexer only challenge in My Friendly Neighborhood. I've said it a million times, but this game is just so great that I'm more than happy to give it a 9.5 out of 10. The scare factors were excellent, the backtracking was fun and didn't feel tedious, the puzzles were unique and a breath of fresh air, and I genuinely love this game. And I can't wait to see for what they have planned next. And unfortunately, that's gonna do it for today's episode. If you guys did enjoy, then feel free to hit that like button for more videos just like this one. And if you haven't already, then feel free to subscribe too. It's absolutely free and it makes my day. And with all that said, I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Bye everyone!